Now, if I had to cut a movie,
I know
it would now be Vindictively. I wasn't going to do it Vindictively earlier, but now you've gone and done it. I'm going to, with great malice aforethought, cut.
Tell me, if you like the world, not the people.
I like the essence of the world, but not the world itself.
You like its organizations, its advertising factotums, its automobiles, its assembly line
Like
souls. It's bad.
Well, it's silly.
Let's remove it. Huh?
But it feeds me. It brings me cans of pork and beans.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Holy Goof Podcast. We are the Holy Goofs. I'm Spencer. I'm here with Josh and Brett. And we are here for another Series Sitdown. This time we're going into Star Wars, the original trilogy. You boys ready?
OG.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh boy.
Let's do it.
All right, well, like I said, we're the Holy Goofs. We're here to create and inspire others to do so as well. We jumped into The Hobbit last time. Very fun conversation. And now we are like, what, 3 weeks into the Rings of Power? Mm-hmm. So,
yes, sir.
Very excited to start another trilogy ahead of Andor coming out September 24th.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, there's so much.
I know. All the content, all the time. It never stops.
All the content.
Hey, we're ready, and we're ready for more. We are ready for more. Now, Andor, if I'm not mistaken, is the prequel to Rogue One and New Hope 5 years before, running into the start of New Hope?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's like around when the first season of Rebels takes place, I believe. Don't quote me on that,
Okay.
but I believe I saw a timeline that put it roughly there. I'm sure that's so they can get a bunch of seasons and run into Rogue One. So, it'll probably be running concurrent with Rebels at some point.
Cool.
Yeah, right before those Death Star plans were stolen. I'm guessing, they will be stolen in the show.
Oh yeah, that'll probably be the series finale.
Probably.
That's showing that.
All right.
Probably what they'll do.
Well, we decided to start with the trilogies. We would love to do all of them, but we're going to start from where Andor is probably going to lead into. So we're talking The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and New Hope, obviously.
Not in that order.
Not in that order.
Probably the most influential trilogy ever made, besides The Godfather.
Yeah. And I think even that's arguable, honestly.
I mean, I don't have
Star
any...
Wars did so much for every element of film creation.
That's absolutely right.
It changed the game for a lot.
I don't have any debates there. So let's get into it. But before that, visit our shop, theholygoof.com/shop. You can get cool merch like this, tees.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we love to inspire creators to create. We feature them on the site. Go check out the Mad Ones page. We're featuring the Cast Collective still. We got Book of the Month, E.R. Griffin, Star in the Bad Host, a musician that we like. Go check it out. Support them. Support us by getting cool shirts like this. So in this series, we go down themes, sections of it to guide the conversation along. We're going to do Uncommonplace, Mad Ones, Kill Your Darlings, For Damn Kicks, and wrap it up with quotes.
Perfect.
All right, so Uncommonplace is where we select things about the series that are uncommon, standouts about it. It can be the cast and crew. It can be members of, obviously, the characters, whatever it is, costumes. And so for the trilogy, for me, I think my Uncommonplace, I'm going to start off with, and this might be cheating a little bit, but my Uncommonplace is essentially the galaxy far, far away. I just... and Brett, you got into this a little bit before, but the idea of this place that was created, it stands up there with the Tolkien and, the Rowling of just creating a universe, creating these characters. And I mean, we're
world building.
World building, exactly. I mean, we're talking about these futuristic monks that fight with laser swords. We're talking, starships and clones, all this stuff. I think, I know at the time was unheard of. I sometimes wish I could have, been there at the time it was released and had my mind blown, because I really got into it, and this may be blasphemy, but I got into Star Wars from the prequels. I had seen the original trilogies, but the prequels are really what got me really amped up, and then going back to those was really fun. So, you know, this world that was created by George Lucas is kind of my uncommon place, because I mean, by all intents and purposes, it is uncommon. And I don't know if I'm late to the party with this, but I've recently read, and this might be common knowledge, but I recently read that R2-D2, George Lucas said that R2-D2 is the narrator of this entire story.
Yeah. So the whole concept is that the scroll is him projecting and like telling the story of the Skywalker like saga. That's
Interesting.
essentially that's essentially like how he positioned it.
Yeah, so the
So
whole
like we are in the future watching this through R2-D2.
The whole thing is a space saga in retrospect, and he's this kind of interplanetary bard telling the story.
Love that.
So I mean, I thought that was really cool. So I mean, major uncommon place there. So yeah, my uncommon place, the galaxy far, far away.
Nice. Well, Brett, I hope you don't mind if I jump the line here, but
Go right ahead.
mine's almost the same thing, but it's more about the ensemble of characters. Like, especially in this era of filmmaking, it was wild to just do like this many characters and not. I mean, the fact that we don't see Luke until we've already met Leia, R2-D2, Darth Vader. We don't just start on the main character and go from there. And there's so many, even minor characters that have one scene, sometimes no dialogue, that have become people's favorites forever. And
Absolutely.
I think that's a really interesting part of it, and it ties in perfectly with what you're saying, Spence, about the world building of this universe. And I think why this works, and this is definitely something I've stolen from Brett's series Film School in a Jar, but every character, or for the most part every character, no matter how small, drives the plot along in some way. There's very few superfluous characters on screen. And I think Greedo's a great example of that, where sure, it's just a fun scene to kind of show Han and everything, but also it really sets up a lot of information about who Han is, Jabba, how the universe functions, all this stuff.
Yes.
Without being like just outwardly expositional, where it's like, this is what's happening here, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's a good piggyback off yours, Spence, and that's definitely my uncommon place, is like just how many characters Lucas packed into this. And obviously now with Marvel and everything, we're used to it, but especially for the time, I think that was pretty radical to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trendsetter, right? I mean, a lot of stuff we're seeing now is because of him, right? So
Yeah. So my uncommon place is actually before we got the super iconic galaxy in a far, far away. He had an original rough draft, and they turned it into a comic.
So cool.
Props.
And it is very interesting. It has a lot in common with Phantom Menace. Coruscant is a really big location in it. Han Solo is a green alien. And there are a lot of very interesting changes throughout it. And this was like his original idea, and then it was far too expensive and pretty much impossible to do a lot of the things he wanted to do. So he scaled it back, went back and, adjusted it and felt out what was necessary. And then we got A New Hope that we all know and love. So I just thought that was a very interesting thing to compare to, and looking at like the process that a film goes through and the changes, So yeah, that's my uncommon place.
Love it.
all right, so I mean, moving right along, let's go to Mad Ones. This is a section where we select a character who stood out the most for us in this trilogy. Somebody who, or it could be the director, it could be George Lucas, whoever. But it's funner if we pick characters who stood out and really showed us, we really excelled in the story. Mine is going to be C-3PO. I think that, well, the droids in general, but I'm going to show some love to C-3PO because I feel like he's severely disrespected in this trilogy. Like, I mean, the whole time they're just kicking his ass in, right?
Yeah.
And
Never tell me the odds.
yeah. And you know what? He takes it and he just keeps on going and he's there to the very end. R2-D2 gets all the love, but I got to show some love for C-3PO. I mean, getting ripped apart, just a jumble of wires every now and then. I mean, just for his showing some love for his loyalty, dedication, his patience, because he really is the voice of reason and calm in a collection of wild cards, right?
Yeah.
He really tries. He tries his best, but everybody is just, going off.
He's the audience in a lot of moments.
True.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous, and making comments like that.
And let's not lie. I mean, he's right most of the time, but it's like he's no fun. That's how they push it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we want to highlight some moments, I mean, getting the Ewoks from not just killing them all in what was it? Was it Return of the Jedi? By pretending to be this golden god, or is it Empire Strikes Back? I forget which one it is.
No, that's Return of the Jedi.
No, it's Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Did you not watch the assignment before we started the podcast, sir?
I definitely did. I definitely did.
I have a similar problem to Spence, where character names and like movie titles are totally lost to me. Like to this day, actually, Spence and I just rewatched Star Wars very recently, still, it's like the third of the first set of movies is how I refer to it in my head. I know, that's blasphemous.
God.
I know.
Listen, the one where he pretends to be a golden god for the Ewoks and stops the Ewoks from.
It's Return of the Jedi. It's the third one.
It is Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Smack you, Spencer.
Yes.
Smack.
And that's one. And then, I mean, I guess you can debate whether this is R2's more influence than him, but stopping the trash compactor, he was there, he helped, saving lives. My mad one is C-3PO.
Mm-hmm.
Show him some love.
Love it.
And I watched these, I promise.
Sure.
Debatable.
Yes.
We
watched all the Star Treks. So mine was actually not a character at all. Mine is ILM, or Industrial Light and Magic, which is the special effects team, CG studio that Lucas created to make this, because at the time studios were getting away from anything unrealistic. Audiences wanted to see grounded stuff like Serpico, stuff that felt like real life, So they didn't have really any kind of special effects team for him. So he got Dykstra, right? To basically get together a group of like engineers, artists, and college students who were all like potheads, and they were getting high all the time.
Tippett.
And he threw them in a warehouse, like this really hot warehouse, and they're like sitting around in bathtubs all the time and just doing crazy stuff. And they actually almost had the production shut down because the studio came in and there were people walking around with like fish heads on and throwing fridges off of balconies. And the studio was like, what are you doing here? Let's see the shots. And then they looked at the shots and they're like, this doesn't work. So Lucas had to come in and babysit them from then on. But they came up with some stuff that, Brett, you kind of touched on this earlier. You don't have any modern movie that uses any type of special effects without Industrial Light and Magic and the stuff they did.
Yes.
Digital motion control photography was absolutely crucial for filming this and then filming everything after this.
Yep. Bill Tippett used the motion go or whatever it was called.
They actually called it the Dykstraflex after Dykstra, who was their head. Yeah, and they created
the first... like an advanced version of stop motion for the walkers.
That's right.
They did that together. Like that's it's.
And
it's just crazy.
Alpha channel filtering and stuff like that, which is something that even graphic design uses nowadays. And then, digital compositing. They eventually created Pixar. I mean, the modern film industry doesn't exist without ILM. So I think they get shouts out for just being a bunch of like high weirdos and coming up with a bunch of crazy ideas.
Yeah.
So my mad one is going to be a character. When you mention characters in the background that become people's favorite characters, he's your number one guy. The old Boba Fett.
Yeah, all right.
Oh,
this
man.
dude had seriously... I don't want to necessarily talk about the character Boba Fett. I want to talk about the phenomenon that is Boba Fett. Because this is a dude that showed up and had less than 10 lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
And like between two movies, in one movie he literally he has like one line of dialogue in Empire. In Cloud City, he has his whole scene where he takes Solo, onto his ship in Carbonite, and stuff.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and then he's in the opening scene of Return of the Jedi, which I may ruffle some feathers here, but let's be honest. The whole scene in Jabba's palace and that whole opening sequence is the best part of Return of the Jedi.
Ooh.
I think it's the best part.
Like,
I think it's the best part of
it's really,
the
it's really
entire
badass.
series.
It's probably the best part of the whole movie,
Yeah.
even though we
Yeah.
have the amazing fight between Luke and everyone,
It's
and
the
we
best.
have like the star battle and stuff. That opening is there's
it's
just something
iconic.
about it.
Iconic.
If you just forget about the dance scene,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
but everything else, it's
between
the
that.
best part.
It's between that and the New Hope blowing up the Death Star. I think
It's like it is one of the most iconic set pieces in the series, and Boba Fett is such an iconic character simply because of how he looked. And like,
Yeah.
it's just fascinating because now he has a whole history. He has a bazillion clones that he is like based on, and his dad Django, and now he has his own TV show.
Gave him a show.
And like, it's insane how all of this came from a character that, you know, had maybe 5 lines between 2 movies, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know? So that's my mad one. Boba Fett, the real MVP for just being everyone's favorite for some reason.
That was
So-
that was unexpected. I was not thinking about, because Boba Fett's not in it a lot.
Well, at one point, Boba Fett was actually going to be the main villain of the
I
third
remember
movie,
hearing that.
and they were going to reveal that Boba Fett's the one that killed his parents, and that this is when George was like, I'm going to do my 9 movies, and he was like having all these ideas of like extending it and making Vader the villain for like the whole series. So like it was like, well, we have to have some big bad for the next movie, and at one point it was Boba Fett, but I mean that obviously those plans didn't last. But now we have the classic Boba Fett that we all know and love.
Love it.
That's a
Love
good
it.
one. That's a good one. They still had to throw Mando in there. He couldn't carry his own series.
Pissed me off. I didn't come to a show called Boba Fett to watch Mando. I go to the Mandalorian to watch that.
But it's my favorite episode of the series.
It's the
too.
best episode of the series.
I don't mind him joining the show, but he shouldn't exactly. Like, if you have an entire episode where your main character doesn't show up and it's
Yeah.
a dude from another fucking show, that maybe is a problem.
I agree.
That whole episode was a Mando episode. It's ridiculous.
It was a great episode, though.
It is so good. It's so good. It's a
It
great
was so
episode
good.
of The Mandalorian.
It was a great episode of Mandalorian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Right.
Excited for Mandalorian season 3.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
All right, so let's go on and let's start killing some darlings here. This is where we select something in the movie to
All right.
annex a character, a scene. We have to then kill an entire movie, which is tough for this one. This is a really challenging one. But I'm just gonna go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. I'm gonna go ahead and,
All right.
and
Do it.
I want to go ahead and kill the Ewoks. Now,
Whoa.
listen, I believe they're
Mhm.
cute, they're lovable, they're teddy bears, they're great. I really didn't want to do this, but I could not think of anything else to take out of this movie that didn't need to be there, and it's them. And maybe not all of them, but maybe not all the scenes, but especially the scene where they're helping, defeat the walkers in the forest for way too long. I thought.
That's the best part.
I don't know.
So
I like the C3PO scene better, and the ending when they're all partying better than. Listen, it went on for too long.
Or like, how is the saddest part in all 3 movies when an Ewok dies and another Ewok comes around and goes, and you're just like,
they were great, but I really couldn't think of a more unnecessary part to kill.
That's fair. That's fair.
And honestly, like, I hate doing it. I really do, but it had to be done.
So by default, really, it's not like you want them dead. It's just like, what else am I gonna get rid of here?
All right.
Well, yeah.
All right, Josh, what are you cutting?
And I'll give this to George Lucas. Like, he tried to do it again in the prequels with the Gungans. Like, that's the Ewoks.
God.
That whole thing is supposed to be Ewoks.
So
And it didn't work. So, I mean, the Ewoks hit. It was a good call by him, but, like, if done 2 times to that level, 10 times that level, you get the Gungans.
Yeah.
So you can see where the unnecessary parallels are. That's it. I'm just going to go ahead and kill the Ewoks. And then the movie, it's gonna have to be Empire Strikes Back because you can't kill A New Hope. It's fantastic, and Jedi Returns is the best, one of the best movies ever. So, and also just too much. I can't give.
I think I'm dying.
I can't too much. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go, but you cannot kill. You can't kill Jedi Returns and A New
Return
Hope.
of the Jedi.
Such a
Return
of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi.
Oh,
You can't.
excited.
You brought this on yourself, Spencer.
And also, too much victories for the dark side there. Too much victories there. So it's good. That one goes.
All right.
Carry on.
Let me go because we got to get Brett the talking conch show here. All right. So the darling I'm killing is second Death Star. I get that it's a plot point, but and we shouldn't talk about the other trilogies, but it gives too many. It makes too many apologies for what they do later on in the sequels, where they just start manufacturing these giant weapons of war in like no time, and the excuse people use is like, well, they made a second Death Star. It's like, yeah, I wish they hadn't, honestly.
They got weapons of mass destruction.
And look, there's a lot of problems with it. Like, why is Palpatine hanging out on this half-finished thing with like a lot of security problems? Like, it doesn't make sense.
He has foreseen it.
Right. He could easily be on a Star Destroyer. It doesn't. There's no reason it has to be a second Death Star. They could easily. The motivation could be that they're trying to take out, the Emperor, and this is their final blow anyway. So yeah, that's a darling I'm killing. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem too necessary, and I hate what it lets later movies do.
It gives them the direct line to the later movies, the newer ones.
But the movie I'm killing, it was so hard for me. I also went with Empire Strikes Back, and I will say it was I love it.
Gonna kill both
I know,
of you.
I love it, but I will say Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And I know, but for a couple pivotal reasons. The main one, and this is so like 12-year-old boy of me, but the Luke lightsaber fight with Vader at the end is just
it's awesome.
It's the first really good lightsaber fight, and that to me is that's why I'm watching. So
good stuff.
And I love everything with the Ewoks and everything. I love the speeders. I felt like the
speeder scene's great.
Yeah, it's also good.
Oh my
and then how do you kill New Hope? It's setting everything up. It's so again by default. As much as I love Empire Strikes Back, and there's some great moments in it, that one just that was the chopping block for me. I'm sorry.
You're gonna have to kill. You're gonna have to kill Jabba. You're gonna have to kill Jabba the Hutt. You're gonna have to kill Carrie Fisher in the outfit.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, get rid of that. We don't need it.
Get rid of that. It's iconic, but
get rid of Carrie Fisher in the outfit, huh?
Yeah.
Iconic moment. I'm just saying iconic moments. That's all. That's all.
Well,
Brett, let us have it.
The initial thing I was gonna cut was also the Ewoks.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I obviously don't hate them. I enjoy the Ewoks. I grew up with the Ewoks. But I mean, at the same time, every time I watch it, I'm just like, the teddy bears defeating the Empire.
They are.
Like, there's just a part of me that's just like,
Yeah.
And like, I know the original concept was for it to be set on Kashyyyk, and it was
Which I
gonna
would
be
have
all
loved.
Wookiees. Now that would have been fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But of course, he couldn't afford it, so we got Ewoks. Ewoks are fine. And since Spence already touched on that, I won't go into that. So
I feel
there's
justified.
logically only one other thing to actually sequence to cut from this movie, and it's the fucking dance sequence in Jabba's palace.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter which version you watch, whether it's the original one or the god awful CGI
And the new
in
one.
the special editions. Like, they're both bad.
Mm-hmm.
They're both also, I think, where you start to see George Lucas turn a corner in a bad way. In the special features and all the behind the scenes stuff, they actually talk about how George became like oddly obsessed with this scene, to the point where like he was going like way overboard just for this scene, and everyone was like, George, it's a fucking like stupid little like bar sequence. Like, we have an empire to defeat, we have an emperor to kill, we have a Vader to redeem. Like, there are much bigger things here. And he was like, no, we need to devote way too much time and money to this stupid dance sequence and getting this band, which I love the Max Rebo band. I love Max Rebo. But like it's where I think Lucas first started focusing on the wrong things in like these movies and stuff, and less about like actual character and plot and more about like the world itself and like creating cool things to exist.
Right.
So that's why I'm cutting that scene. Now, if I had to cut a movie,
I know
it would now be Vindictively. I wasn't going to do it Vindictively earlier, but now you've gone and done it. I'm going to, with great malice aforethought, cut Return of the Jedi.
God damn it.
Because you can't cut A New Hope. It's obviously the first. It's the original. It is literally one of the greatest pieces of cinema ever made.
Facts.
And Empire Strikes Back is hands down the greatest sequel ever made.
Yes, I'd say that.
It's like,
Yeah.
it is. It's
I'd say
that,
that.
The Godfather 2, Terminator 2.
Aliens.
Like, those
I'll
are
say
aliens. Those are the
right.
top 4.
Yeah.
Those are the top 4.
Yeah.
It's like, those are the 4 greatest sequels ever. The I Am Your Father is hands down one of the most iconic and mind-blowing pieces of cinema moments, like, ever.
Yes.
And like, and I would kill to have been in a theater at the time of this release to actually witness it and see how people reacted and stuff. Yeah. And like, it would have been absolutely amazing. And honestly, I think the whole trilogy is damn near perfect.
Yeah.
But when I break it down, most of the faults I have with it are in the third movie. So I'm gonna have to cut the third one. If you put it on Kashyyyk, the third one would have lived.
I'm so glad you brought up Kashyyyk, because that would be so perfect to me. It would be so perfect to me to have that on Kashyyyk. But I accept. I accept. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Your points were made, and you swayed me a little bit with that Luke, I'm your father scene, because that's so iconic. How can you cut that?
I know it's true.
Right?
It's true. We take it for granted because we know it, but it's true that it is the heaviest. Is it the greatest film reveal ever?
It quite possibly is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's at least in the top 5.
Yeah.
We could look back on this later, but
my sister, my daughter, my sister, my daughter. That's another one.
We can look back on this later, but I mean, I think this is the hardest one, Kill Your Darlings, as far as like
it is.
Yeah,
it's
all
very
great.
hard.
It's all great.
Yeah,
they're all
tough.
wonderful.
So for damn kicks, we are going to just be adding a little spice to the movies. What would we have liked to have seen in an already perfect trilogy? Scenes, characters, whatever it may be. So my for damn kicks is going to be, I just want them to really fulfill Anakin Skywalker's redemption arc completely. Like, sure it was, but I want Anakin to live. So I wanted him to kill the Emperor and then go off with Luke and just have generations of Skywalkers and Jedis.
Be a dad.
And just be a father. Play some catch with your son. And that way we don't get any sequels. We don't get what we just
catch
saw.
with your robotic arms.
It's just, I think they would have just had him push Palpatine over and then turn to his son and embrace. And it just ends.
God, am I going to have to animate Darth Vader tossing a football?
Yeah, playing catch with his son. I mean, of course, I love the way it ended, but it would have been nice after you see the sequels and now the bittersweet love you have for Anakin. It's just, it sucks that.
Oh, here's a quick question: which ending do you prefer? One with the original Vader showing up as a ghost, or Anakin showing up as
Anakin.
I agree, Anakin, because as they pointed out in the Kenobi series, that's when Anakin really died.
That's when he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I personally, the older guy, I think his name's Sebastian something. Because I think that helps drive home the fact that his redemption happened at that time.
True.
And stuff where it's Anakin did come back in that moment. Like, and that's what I liked.
He did.
But I do also think that the whole thing, especially with the addition of Obi-Wan, it does help that other version you know.
Yeah.
But I still think it's like no, man, give him that moment as an older man.
Yeah.
Like, give it to him.
I like that actually.
I just wanted to see him live.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, after all the nonsense that went down, that we know went down, it would have been nice to see that happen, and then we wouldn't have got sequels. It would have been over.
Yeah, that would have been it. Okay, I'm gonna jump into mine. Mine would be some canonical Gray Jedi philosophy, and I know it makes the philosophy really complicated, and I know I'm messing with something perfect here because the philosophy of Star Wars is so grounded in like Joseph Campbell stuff, and that it's a great mythology and everything. But knowing the prequels and knowing that these Jedi are not infallible and everything, I would like to see, and it kind of works with Luke because Luke does kind of go against the Jedi code. He kind of does do his own thing.
A little bit of a gray. Yeah,
a little bit.
You could argue it.
Totally.
You could argue
so,
it,
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe something, I wouldn't even know how you'd fit it in, but...
And like Ahsoka, you could argue Ahsoka maybe as a gray
and
as well.
I've even heard arguments for Qui-Gon that I don't hate.
I've heard that too, yeah.
Where he's kind of on the fence. He kind of doesn't follow the order. And I just because it's so binary, there's light side and dark side, I would like to see a little bit of that gray area. I think it would just make it a little more complex, maybe, the philosophy of it. But that being said, the philosophy is perfect. So that's if I had to add anything, that's what I'm adding.
Right.
Bisexual force use.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I want bi Luke. Because look, he's kind of perfect. He's
you don't know which way it's gonna go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Mine, I mentioned it in passing earlier. It's to see the Kashyyyk and the battle of the third movie instead of them Ewoks. Also, I think it would have been really interesting to see Boba Fett as revealed as the killer of Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen. I would have really liked that kind of little plot thread.
Okay.
It's like, I mean, everyone hinges on the fact that in Empire he has that line where he's like, "No disintegration," you know, and everyone's like, "Oh, the only other people we've ever seen disintegrated."
Oh.
Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen.
Interesting.
So that's where like everyone kind of gets that connection, and I think that's what that was. I mean, knowing the history, I'm sure Lucas had that in the back of his mind at one point, and then it just never, you know, the question was never answered. So I think that'd be a really cool thing to answer that. And then also, I want to see an army of Wookiees take out the Empire instead of an army of teddy bears.
Yeah, bigger teddy bears, please.
That
give me an 8-foot tall teddy bear.
I love it.
That would have been awesome. See, now we're talking.
I mean, we kind of got that in Revenge of the Sith, but it just, I don't know, like, it's not as like imposing when a Wookiee takes down this like flimsy battle droid that are already being used for comedic relief.
Yeah,
like it's a little bit more satisfying seeing them like rip a stormtrooper's arm off, you know, instead of a battle droid.
I would have loved to seen that. For
and
sure.
if you play Battlefront at all, that was my favorite level always, was messing around on Kashyyyk. It's so much fun.
All right, so let's get to quotes, shall we? Really sped through this one. All right. So my quote is from Chewbacca. No, I'm just kidding.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
That's great.
Chewbacca in A New Hope. I can't even do the call.
I wish you had. Yeah, I wish.
You can add it in post. Add it in post.
All right, wait. Open your mouth.
Act like you're doing a Spencer.
I thought you were talking to Brad.
Yeah. Chewbacca! Nice, nailed it. Pitch perfect.
You did a great job.
Wonderful. In post. Okay. No, I couldn't go through this and not pick a quote from Yoda. So, I mean, I really tried hard, but he was just spitting bars. So, I got a quote. It says, difficult to see, always in motion.
We got the same quote. We got the same quote. It happened.
From The Empire Strikes Back. That's our first double quote. Listen, it's beautiful to me. I mean, it's life, right? I mean, I think it was great that there's so many good quotes between him and Luke when he's training in Dagobah, when he's on his back and all that stuff. But this one, it really stood out because it's exactly what his father couldn't do, right? Like,
that's it.
You know, just let go and let the Force, right? And so it's just a good lesson to learn. You can't control what happens, but a major part of what we as humans and what Jedis have to do is just kind of let the Force guide them, let the universe make the changes for you. So that's it. That's Yoda for you.
It's
So give me the whole quote, since we didn't actually say it, the whole thing.
Difficult to see, always in motion is the future.
I do love what it also, like, it kind of heals a thing. It kind of because Anakin, his turn into Darth Vader on some level is, you can empathize with it so well because he has this fatalistic attitude of like, no, I've seen this, it will happen. So for Yoda to kind of heal that with like, no, that's not how it works. Like you can foresee all these things and everything, but really, like you said, Spence, the crux of being a Jedi is kind of being present, is not really obsessing too much on what's coming, because that's always in flux. And it's your action. It's not determinism where your actions have no meaning, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I agree. Same quote.
Perfect quote for someone who has anxiety. That's that's it. Yoda.
Nice. So you both have the same quote.
Yep.
Fantastic. So mine is,
That's crazy.
do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah.
Which I was afraid you were going to take.
No, I thought
because I mean, it's the most obvious quote
I thought
ever.
on it, but it was too popular.
It's the most obvious quote ever. However, there's a reason it's the most obvious quote ever, and it's because of what it means. And, you know, I think that's also something that you can project onto George, you know? He didn't try. He fucking did, and he created one of the greatest pieces of media ever.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like,
absolutely.
believe in yourself, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's no try. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just Nike, man. Nike.
Just Nike it. Exactly. There's no debating these. Once you get to the prequels and then you get to the sequels, that's when you start really killing.
Yeah.
That's when you go on rampage.
That's when you get on. Yeah, there's a lot of divisiveness about those.
Yeah, that's when the tone of this podcast changes drastically.
It just becomes a shouting match, like we're playing Monopoly.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, that's a wrap for us. Thanks for watching. Whatever you want us to do next, if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. We'd love to hear them. Can't wait for Andor. We will be checking that out. We'll have some content for that as well. But yeah, Halloween's coming up, so we may have some,
Keep an ear out.
some nice series to do. We got Nightmare on Elm
Halloween
Street.
Ends comes out.
That's true.
So maybe we'll do something about that.
I'm thinking so.
Who
I'm thinking
knows?
Halloween. Yeah.
Halloween, whatever works.
Halloween, final Jamie Lee movie is coming out,
Yeah.
so maybe we can touch on that.
Yeah.
But the Goofs will be back, and as Brett says, stay goofy.
Stay goofing.
Stay goofing.
Peace.